What happens when consumer expectations rise faster than marketing teams can keep up?
Incisiv and Adobe's latest state of customer experience in retail and consumer goods research shows a widening gap between what shoppers want and what brands deliver.
Today, we're breaking down why the old marketing playbooks are failing and what marketing leaders need to do next. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4, Retail Data Junkies. This is the Retail Razor Data Blades, the podcast that slices through complex retail research to deliver sharp, actionable insights you can use today. I'm Ricardo Belmar.
And I'm Casey Golden, resident data junkie. Today, we're kicking off with a new 3-part series with our friends at Incisiv and Adobe, focused on data-driven marketing in what's becoming an AI-driven world.
Well, Casey, it feels like every marketing leader I talk to is under more pressure than ever. Consumers want personalization in real time. I mean, who doesn't? Boards want measurable revenue impact, naturally. And the old playbooks, well, they just aren't cutting it anymore.
No, exactly. And the research from Adobe and Incisiv really drives this home. Only a small percentage of retail and CPG organizations are personalizing most of the customer journey. That gap between expectation and reality is huge.
Which is why today's episode is all about those new pressures that CMOs face and how marketing teams are rethinking their operating models. In fact, Incisiv and Adobe recently released two research reports you were just alluding to about the state of customer experience in both retail and consumer goods in an AI-driven world. So to help us unpack what's really happening and what the research tells us, we've got Dave Weinand from Incisiv joining us to kick off the series today.
But before we dive in, a quick favor. If you enjoy the show, hit us with a 5-star rating and drop a short review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you're listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, my favorite channel, so you never miss an episode.
Plus, check out the other shows in the Retail Razor Podcast Network, The Retail Razor Show, Retail Transformers, and Blade to Greatness. You'll find them all in your favorite podcast app, and of course, on our YouTube channel.
Now let's raise our data blades and welcome Dave Weinand, co-founder and chief customer officer of Incisiv, to the show.
Welcome to the Retail Razor Data Blades Show, Dave. We are excited to kick off this 3-part series with you and dig into the insights from the Adobe Incisiv research on the state of customer experience in retail and consumer goods. I almost can't believe it's taken this long to get you on the show, to be honest. And our Retail Razor Show fans may remember a previous episode from that podcast where another member of the Incisiv team, who may remain nameless, joined us for a conversation on unified commerce. Still one of our top 10 episodes. So welcome, Dave.
Well, good to join. And I guess my only objective here today is to perform better than my unnamed partner.
Of course.
It's a good thing none of us are competitive, right?
Just kidding. I don't have the brain power of that particular partner we're talking about, but we'll figure it out.
Well, this is really about the evolving role of marketing in the age of AI. No one can have a conversation about marketing anymore without talking about the impact. The research you and Adobe have put together is really delivering some actionable insights that I think every retailer and consumer brand marketer can use, and something CMOs should be taking notes on.
It was probably one of the most comprehensive studies we've ever done, because I know we're talking about retail and CPG today, but this was 9 industries we did.
Wow.
And it covered, I think, 10 geographies.
Oh, wow.
So it's one of the biggest studies, and we're actually doing it again in 2026. So we're all excited.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, let's dive into part 1 of this series and talk about the new pressures around metrics and consumer expectations that marketers have to deal with now. So Dave, research highlights that despite heavy investment, only 12% of retail organizations have personalized more than 75% of the customer journey. And in CPG, it's just 8%. So why are consumer expectations rising so fast? And why are the traditional marketing playbooks just struggling to keep up?
I'll let you tell me. Just kidding. No,
we didn't set their expectations yet, right? Like their expectations
exactly.
far
Well,
exceed what we've ever given them.
Right.
It's exactly. Well, and they're changing so fast because the environment's changing so fast, right? I mean, we've certainly been talking about it for years and years and years, whether it's Incisiv or any other, firm out there that, consumers don't experience brand in silos. They don't view the experience via a channel, those types of things. They want seamless, personalized expectations, and it's only getting worse and faster and all those kind of, because there's actually more channels now. We have social and AI and all those other things, and then because these types of shopping channels are proliferating, certainly the way that organizations are structured is completely different with how consumers are now behaving. So that's a big kind of contributing factor to this mismatch. A good percentage of retailers and brands out there still kind of operate in kind of the channel specific teams. Mm-hmm. They have, fragmented data, disconnected systems, you have digital, you have e-com, you have marketing, all those kinds of things. So the traditional playbooks just struggle to keep up. And things like mass marketing and reach and impressions, or those kinds of things just aren't holding water anywhere near like they used to. So that's it. I mean, and you got to think about who's setting the bar out there, right? I mean, consumers, we've been saying this since 2017, they view their best digital experience regardless of type of company. So Netflix, Uber, Amazon, those types of things,
right?
Those are the bars that have been set. So now there's others have to kind of strive to reach it.
I think that's a good point. I've been having a lot of conversations with brands, and their competitor is not, for user experience, is not the competitor that they might hang next to or compete with. I'm like, it's Uber user experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's this user experience.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of it being the same industry at all. So I think that your report really, it doesn't matter that it's across industry. It's super, super relevant because it's across industry. So is the consumer. Yeah. The consumer shops across industry.
Yeah.
Their expectations will change from one to another.
Yeah. Yeah. Consumers don't stand there thinking, oh, what industry am I working with today? It's, they just go through life and do things.
Right.
And that's a single expectation for everybody.
Yeah. No, it's true. I can literally show you a slide from 2017 with that exact statement. When we first started Incisiv, when we were trying to build our brand, we went to New York and did this half-day event, and that was literally the, consumers don't, they look at their overall experience regardless of type of company, brand, et cetera. So,
yeah.
Anyway. So
retail leaders say that 98% of customers abandon carts if checkout takes too many steps, and 92% cite slow page loads as a deal breaker. I personally haven't had a slow page load for quite a while, but how do these operational pressures translate into new KPIs? I mean, is this really chasing now?
Yeah, I mean, the question's interesting in the sense that this is kind of crossing over in a bunch of different teams, right? It's certainly for marketing leaders, there's things they should be looking at and tracking, looking at conversion, daily, hourly, abandonment rates, those types of things, but they need to be working with the e-com and digital teams and even IT in many cases to create these kind of dashboards that they can really look and leverage at. And then to what we were talking about earlier, Casey, in the sense that you're very happy in the environment you're in, with the collaborative environment you work in, that has to be kind of true across the board with these organizations because especially as it relates to this question, cart abandonment, those types of things, that spans across several different teams. So to be able to have that collaborative effort and be able to look at a dashboard and act and it's all about speed at this day and age, right? So be able to react and act.
It's interesting to me. So how either on the one hand you have what the marketing teams have to do and kind of react to everything you just described, how their CMO wants them to tackle that, but then there's also how your board and CEO are also kind of demanding measurable revenue impact, right, from all of these marketing tactics and all of these marketing changes. So how does that change the way all the marketing leaders kind of prioritize more customer-centric KPIs, things like lifetime value? How are they measuring loyalty over traditional channel metrics?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, and we're talking about retail and CPG now, but it's kind of true across the board. Even the tech world, right? well, I guess you could call them vanity metrics. I don't know, things like reach and impressions, things like influencer penetration. Those are just things. They're nice at all, but they're just not going to hold water in today's environment. Value metrics, everything you point out, like lifetime value and loyalty and those types of things. So, the way that marketers need to, so what does that mean? So marketers have to look at much more specific data than they've ever had to look at, and being tied to revenue numbers. In some ways, it can be liberating in the sense that you have real impact. And, and in other ways, it can be very stressful, right? Because some marketers aren't used to being able to act under those environments. The creative types, the ones that are really focused on the brand, those types of things. And I know in many organizations, there are different roles for those different types of activities, but at the C-suite level, you have to be able to kind of be a jack of all trades. And I think retailers and brands have gotten pretty good in terms of putting the right people in place, but there's still that disconnect in terms of how they've always been measured versus what the future holds.
Yeah, your research shows that 95% of retail marketing leaders are expected to directly contribute to revenue, which I love this, right? Well, they've just too much of grow at all costs in the industry in general. Retail's never really got to play that way, but 79% say marketing owns more of the customer experience. How is this reshaping the role of marketing teams and frankly, the org structure? Because I only contributed marketing to owning the customer experience on e-commerce because it was pay to play. It's simple math. X amount of traffic equals X amount of conversion equals X amount of transactions, whatever.
Right.
But I never considered them really part of the customer experience, because 80% of retail's in store. And they don't do anything to drive traffic on the store.
Oh, was that your opinion?
That's my opinion.
I see.
Because they just couldn't measure it as well, right? So then it was just if you can't measure it, you can't change it. So I just everything focused on money.
From an omnichannel perspective, there are tools that are allowing much better measurement of, especially because if you think about how much is being driven by mobile and those types of things, and most shopping journeys they start at the mobile device, or maybe in some cases on the social channels these days. If you're one of the Utes out there, which I confess I am not, but as we've been talking about, marketing was a cost center, right? And that was kind of the where it sat for years, and now it's a revenue engine. And so where it can kind of all bring together from e-com into store and all those kinds of things is the way it's looked at, right? If they own the full buyer journey from discovery through retention, then it can be, then you. A couple things. You have when you look at it that way, it's a more unified data set. So therefore you can see patterns easily. You can have attribution more easily, those types of things. So that's one key thing. But the other thing that we haven't really touched on is, well, we have, but just the idea that marketers need to understand different disciplines now. Things like data science,
new roles,
things like psychology, behavioral psychology, those kind. The creative storytelling thing is great, but you have to use data to tell the story versus just being a storyteller. So we like to say, and I think the data in the study backs it up, is kind of the art of marketing has kind of been equally blended with the science of marketing, and so skill sets will need to adapt.
Yeah. What other kinds of roles do you think are popping up now as that evolves?
Well, this idea of technical marketing is a role that certainly is popping up, and there's marketers that can do SQL or queries, or do A/B testing, or do predictive modeling, those types of things. That's going to be a more valuable role. Certainly, as AI proliferates, and I know that's the topic of one of our other sessions, but as AI proliferates, that ability to really leverage AI and make it hum. I think we're getting to the point where asking it a simple question is not going to give you the answers or the knowledge you need. You really need to be able to work it. You need to train it. You need to be able to, give it an understanding of what you want from your brand and what you, and from those perspectives, that can be a role in and of itself. Mm-hmm. So translating data into action. So technical marketers, those types of things, I think will be a bigger role.
Yeah.
Do you think consumer behavior is outpacing marketing execution?
Don't know. What do you think?
I mean, do you think that this is, obviously, we can say it, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are with family. And, I've had to fix my uncle's mobile phone like 7 times today. And change settings. And we were shopping and he was going to buy something. I'm like, wait, let me look at the price online. And I'm like, it's, $8 more expensive in store. So what does the data tell us? We think it does.
No, it's absolutely,
like it does,
it's
but are we
outpacing. I think all you have to look at is think about how retailers plan, or any business plans. Customers are changing behaviors on a dime, or they experience some amazing experience, a digital experience or an in-store experience, and that will change what their expectations are. For an organization to catch up, they'll have to plan it, they'll have to get the people in place, they'll have to implement the new capabilities, and that's months. So it's just the law of nature in the sense that, customers can, their behavior can completely outstrip their ability for retailers to react. So, you can't really blame a retailer for that. They're big organizations, but there are some things they can do. You can have smaller teams that give them more autonomous decision-making. You can kind of have a practice of ongoing testing versus these big, large campaigns that let's check in 3 months what the results are, have it, these shorter, quicker types of things. So, and then of course, AI is enabling all of that to happen more quickly, more easily, those types of things. It's just you have to have the capabilities internally to be able to really leverage that.
Yeah. So I want to dig into a little bit more on some of what you're saying here regarding the organization, how the retailer as an org tackles this. From the research, you found that 10% of retailers are actually structured around the customer journey, even though double that say that that's their ideal. And CPG, 33% said organizing by customer segment is the ideal, but only 20% are managing to do it. So where's the misalignment coming from? What's holding them back?
First of all, I'm kind of surprised that the figures were even that low, that only 20% said that's the ideal. Yeah. But it comes down to, I think most organizations want to be customer centric, but we all know that restructuring or organizing is very difficult inside of an organization. You have, decades of organizational muscle memory that you have to, or connective tissue that you have to kind of unwind, as it were. You have the way that they budget, and those budgets will have to be kind of looked at differently. And then, as we've been talking about in this whole session, is kind of what are the success metrics that you have to follow to be able to really think this way. So some of it's organizational. So of course, some of it's political. There are, the people that are in senior roles most likely have been, especially in retail, they've been in the same kind of either the same company or they've moved up, but they did it that way back in the day and it was successful. So why don't they do it here at this place? Yeah. But I will point out that there are a couple of good examples of of companies that have done this.
Great.
I mean, one is Best Buy, right? Best Buy, these guys were dying on the vine, and they were 5 years ago, right? But what they did is they reorganized from product categories to customers' journey stages. So their teams are focused on things like discovery and shopping, purchase and discovery, those types of things. And they've also they took out the channel specific P&Ls, and their metrics are around CLV, lifetime value. So I mean, if you think about that, they're consumer electronics. I mean, we're Circuit City. It's a tough segment. I joke with my family that the only thing that's come down in price in the last 5 years are TVs. Right. You can get 85-inch TV for like $800 now. It's crazy. Yeah. And the other example is Sephora, right? And their buyer journey is a beauty journey, right? And they're looking at discovery, inspiration, and trial and education, those types of things. So I have 2 girls, so I know what is now the Beauty Insider program is what they've used as their kind of organizing principle. So it can be done, and it can be done successfully because both these companies have done pretty well in a tough environment.
As we discussed, new pressures demand new playbooks, but none of this transformation is possible without strong data foundations. Dave, how do you see data readiness becoming the next big constraint for marketing leaders? Do you think AI readiness is going to solve this specific? Is this how we're going to get to good data?
It's actually the other way around.
Oh.
Because you have to have your data in place in order for AI to really hum.
Right.
So, we were floating around some research earlier this year, and we didn't really end up doing it, but it was something we really wanted to do, which was getting your data in order, your house in order to really prepare the organization for leveraging AI in a complete way. Because from that report, it's like 60% of retailers said that a lot of their data is still in silos.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in order for organizationally and the role of marketing to really hum, you have to get that data in place and unified and those types of things. And then that will help it. I mean, you can use AI for like very specific applications, but then you have the same issue you have with everything else we've been talking about. Right. Everything's in silos.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've been talking about like unified data and breaking down these silos and how important it is for like a decade now, and nothing. It hasn't really.
I know.
Yeah. Right.
It hasn't really gotten done. Right. It keeps getting pushed down in the priority list, regardless of it's on everybody's priority list. Yeah. But it just have other things. Other projects go over time, over budget. Something else comes up that has to take precedence, that's more urgent, and it keeps getting down. Is the AI urgency or pull, is that what's finally going to fix this and get these projects across the finish line?
I think it's a great question.
Regardless if they use it for marketing or they use it for other things.
No, it's a great question. And I would say
solutions with unified clean data.
Right. Yeah. I would say with as fast as things are moving, I would say yes.
Yeah.
And also I think there's advancements in technology that enable it. Because why do you think Snowflake and Databricks have become what they've become?
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Last week, it was insane.
Yeah. So those organizations exist to unify data across organizations. And so the reason they're sitting in so pretty and have done so well is because, technology like AI, but, to your point, I think there has to be a catalyst to get this done. And it looks like AI is that catalyst.
Yeah, it's the trigger. Yeah. Well, that's a good setup for next episode.
Absolutely.
Where we'll dig into that data challenge a little bit more.
Great.
So Dave, this has been a great discussion. Thanks for sharing insights from Incisiv's research today. I'm looking forward to parts 2 and 3. We will have links to the research for the audience in the show notes.
Yeah.
Great to be here. Thanks so much.
Thanks again, Dave. I mean, we really love the fact that, you can just drop some stats, give us the numbers. We got things to do math with here. It's not just all talk. We got numbers to back it up, and I'm excited for everybody else to kind of
the study's available. I think we have it on the Adobe site instead of the Incisiv site, but it's available and ready for viewing and reading.
Perfect. Well, awesome. I'm looking forward to part 2. So Ricardo, I'd say this episode is a wrap. Loved this episode? Drop us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Good Pods, and hit subscribe so you never miss an update. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe before you go. I'm Casey Golden.
Follow Retail Razor on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram, and subscribe to our Substack for highlights and bonus content in your inbox. For transcripts and guest info, head to retailrazor.com. DataBlaze is part of the Retail Razor Podcast Network, the #1 indie podcast network for retail. I'm Ricardo Belmar.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay sharp, be data-driven, and harness AI. This is the Retail Razor DataBlaze.